have a very long series of videos discussing a myriad of topics, from what is going wrong in rescue these days to the right way to rescue responsibly and sustainably, and what exactly that means and all the specifics that entails, along with a lot of the specific ways that we operate here at Nirvana. Please excuse me, it's windy, my hair's a mess. I've been out here working, putting out hay this morning, so let's just get into it. Let's start with mass bailing. Blue Duck's gonna join us for this one. So what is mass bailing and what is not mass bailing? Mass bailing is these organizations that you see that will fundraise and bring in 20 to 40 to 50 to sometimes even more than that horses per month. And we see this in a lot of different scenarios. Some of them are rescues that bring in these horses. They give them a little bit of training or get them healthy, and then they turn around and adopt these horses right back out into the public, into homes. Blue Duck, I'm not gonna scratch your butt. Sorry for the interruption. You can't really give butt scratches while you're sitting on the ground. Anyways, so that's one type of mass bailer, and we never see updates on these horses. They are adopted out for a fee on top of the funds that were already raised for that horse, and they're usually adopted out a month to 2 months later, sometimes even a week or two later. And then we never know where these horses end up, and that number of horses is far too many to actually keep track of and ensure that all of those adoptions are successful and remain successful. So sometimes those horses end up, maybe their training wasn't as good as was advertised, so they get passed from home to home. Or maybe their training's not as good again, so they get deemed dangerous, and then they end up dumped back into an auction. There's a million different things that can happen here with that type of model, and that is 100% considered mass bailing. The second form of mass bailing we see is actually not mass bailing, it's called hoarding. And this is where these newer organizations, or possibly even older organizations sometimes, are taking in, again, 20, 40, 50, 60 or more horses every single month after month, with no plan of continual care for these horses. And that's when we see these extreme neglect cases, as we have seen recently with Roar, and I forget whether it was Massachusetts or one of those M states up there, I don't remember, but they had a bunch of mustangs. They starved a bunch of them. 26 died, and then the last 13 were thankfully rescued with body scores of 1. So that is mass bailing. Now, on the contrast to that, we have a sustainable model that allows us to pull from 4 to sometimes 6 or 8 horses per month sustainably and safely, while taking into account the responsibility that these lives hold once they are in our care, and everything that they require for long-term care and to get them healthy and keep them happy. So and on top of that, there might be the occasional larger group, such as these 8 Alpines that we took in from the auction just a few days ago. So I will get into some details of how we operate in a way that ensures sustainability. We are so fortunate to have an incredible Nirvana family. You guys are really just awesome. I brag about you all the time, constantly. And it really is due to you that we're able to do this work. Without you guys, none of this could happen. So when we decide on a group of horses to rescue, they're usually in a kill pen, because this year, as I said, in January, we are focusing on kill pen rescues. That's been our goal this whole year. So we decide on some horses. Usually once they're posted by the kill pens, they only have about a week until their ship deadline. So we got to kind of get things moving and get the necessary funds raised in order to pull off a successful rescue mission that takes into account the long-term care of these animals, not just their bail and their transport to sanctuary. That is about 1/20th of the cost that goes into rescuing and caring for these animals long term. So that's very important to take note. So we decide on some horses, we begin a fundraiser. We usually have about a week to get the horses bailed, and then usually the lot will give you from 2 days to sometimes another week to get the horses off the lot. So that allows us time to finalize our transport plans, get the transporters paid, and finish up any funds that are needed to again pull off a successful rescue mission that takes into account sustainability and the long-term care of the animals that are coming into Nirvana. Now, we try really, really hard to keep you guys super updated on every single horse that we bring in. We show you their journey, we show you what they look like when they get here, we show you what we're doing along the way to get them healthy again, and we show them once they're looking better. We show you when they get turned out with the herd, and then we try to show you their life within that herd and how their dynamics change, whether they stay bonded with the horses they came in with, or whether they find a new group of friends, and what horse that is and who they like to hang out with most of the time, what they like to do, where they like to spend their time, and really anything. And if there's any horse that anyone ever wants an update on that I haven't given, please don't hesitate to ask. I am so happy to give updates. I love being out here with them. It is not a problem for me to come out here and show you guys any horse at any time and give you any update. Okay, so if anybody wants an update, please don't hesitate to ask me ever. Now, with that being said, there is a lot of work to be done out here, so it might take me a few days or possibly even a week to get you the update you ask, because I'm going to make sure that it is a thorough and in-depth update. You're not just going to get a single little snapshot of their face as we see with some organizations. So please allow me that time and understand that I'm not ignoring you. There is just a lot of work to be done out here to take care of these guys, and that is where 80% of my time goes. So just be aware of that. But yeah, just don't hesitate to ask. I try to update a lot on everyone. Now, I will say, since we've been focusing on kill pin horses this year, hey Danny, I have not been posting as many updates about the Alpines, but that is because I have been trying to really post so many updates about these kill pin saves that we've been doing, so that you guys can get a little glimpse of what all goes into it and how it works and how long it takes for these horses to regain their health and their beautiful shape and their spirit, because a lot of times these guys come in here and they are just utterly broken. It's so sad to see, but it is such a blessing to be able to give them their life back and give them all of the care and love and food and friends and freedom that they deserve. So that is what I have to say about mass bailing. Next, we're going to talk about our property and the specific status of all of our fencing projects, so stay tuned. All right, so our current property, the first property we've started the sanctuary with, is 160 acres, and we're located in Mancos, Colorado. It's in the very southwest corner. We're literally 1 hour from the Four Corners. It is kind of a mix of a dry, arid climate / mountainous climate. We're literally right where it transitions from desert to the west of us and mountains to the east. So we're in a pretty interesting area here. We get quite a bit of snowfall typically every year. We had a really crazy winter in 2022 where we had literally 4 or 5 feet of snow on the ground. It was not fun. However, we persevered, and all the horses love the winter, so that's interesting. We have currently 80 acres fenced, so half of our property. We did do a fundraiser in 2023 for fencing. We still have to fence that 80 acres. This year we have been replacing a ton of fencing. I'm talking like thousands of feet of fencing, because the slick wire we use, they will stick their necks through and stretch it out, so you have to replace it, or they can, like, it's so slick, it's a risk of them getting caught in it or being able to slip through. So we've been working on that. And then our first pasture was built with this 2 by 4 inch square fencing. It is, hold on, let me flip this around. That is what you can see right there. Right there. It's kind of hard to see. I'll get a close-up on that later. There's Bear in the back with Solstice, one of his mares. Anyways, so that fencing is what is required by the BLM for Mustangs that are untitled. And when we started this, we didn't even know about horses in the kill pens or the Forest Service horses or reservation Mustangs. We only knew about the BLM. So we thought that we were going to be adopting the majority of our horses straight from the BLM themselves to cut down on the number of horses in holding. Lo and behold, did we know the problem is much worse than just that. So we, in adjusting our plans, are no longer fencing with that style of fencing because, first of all, it is more than twice as expensive and it does not hold up. So these horses can, I'll show you some in a minute when they scratch their butts on it. I showed a video of Fox doing this earlier today in our stories. You can go check that out. It stretches it out, and so over time it really wears down and is not the best fencing to have for these guys. So we've been working on replacing that with some that is more heavy duty, so the wires are thicker and they will last longer. So that is what we've been working on recently with fencing. And that has been a massive undertaking because we spent a year and a half fencing everything we have fenced here anyways, and now we're replacing a third of it. So it's quite a process here. So as soon as that's finished up, we will be fencing an additional 40 acres, and it's going to be right over here. Let me flip this around again. So right there you see the slick wire fencing I'm talking about, and right out there, so there's a little road right here where you come down here at, and then on the other side of that is where the additional 40 acres will go, and it goes from just the other side of this fence on the other side of the little road to the tree line way back there. So that's where that will be, and we are really hoping to work on that very soon. But again, we have to get all this stuff that needs replaced first before we can start working on that. So that's where we're at with fencing. I will go over real quick and I'll show you guys all of the fencing that we have ripped down that is now sitting in our pile to take to the dump. And then we will move on to our next topic. Sorry, I'm talking really fast. I'm trying to get through all this. It's going to be a ton of information, and Instagram does not like to post the 9-minute videos for me out here in the sticks, so I'm trying to keep it short enough that it's going to post in a timely manner. So I'm talking kind of fast. So really quick, right here on our way over to look at the pile of everything we've taken down, we can see how this gets stretched out and why it needs replacing. Okay, here is our pile of all the fencing we have been taking down. This is actually only half of what we've been taking down. And you see how these wires are so thin. Even though this was the BLM recommended fencing, it just didn't hold up well for us here. So we've been replacing that, as well as some of these posts, because like I said, they like to scratch on them. And I'll have to go find some videos of them doing it, but they will put their entire body weight on these fences, stretch them out, and sometimes mess up these posts. So we're replacing entire stretches of fence here. We're replacing the posts, we're replacing the wire, and that's what we've been working on this year. This pile is pretty huge. I've got a picture I'll have to go find of the dump trailer we filled last time. We rented a dump trailer and brought it out here and filled it up with all of our old fencing and hauled it off. So I'll have to share that to show how much other fencing besides just this here we have replaced this year so far. Here are some of our alpines happily munching away. This is actually Charger's band. They are always by themselves. They are so bonded, it's so cute to see. Just wanted to show them off really quick. We're going to get back to our topic here very shortly. And out that way we see Callie, Baby, and her mama Azura. Love them both so much. Also alpines. And this pasture extends really far up past that ridge, all the way down, way back up there, and has a couple open areas in between. We'll talk more about that later, but right now I want to get into, in the next segment, I guess, how many horses we have here at Nirvana. I'm hoping you guys are sticking with all this, and I'm hoping you can still hear me with the wind that's picking up here. So we are home to 117 horses, 6 of which are not Mustangs. The rest are Alpines, BLM Mustangs, and Reservation Mustangs. I know this seems like a crazy number to most people. However, my grandpa has over 200 horses, so I'm very familiar with what it takes to take care of this many animals and the dedication, time, perseverance, and resilience that it takes to pull this off. So here behind me, we have Elsa, and back there, Velma. They are in quarantine still. They're almost out, so that's great to see. Neither one of them have been sick. We love to see it. So we, as I said, have sustainable ways of taking in these horses. We're not taking in any horse that we aren't going to be able to provide care for long term, girl. And we won't. I can't allow it. Once these horses come into our care, they are my responsibility, and that is a weight on my shoulders that I feel every single day when I wake up and come out here to care for these animals. This is not something that is taken lightly. Every horse that we take in is strongly, seriously considered financially, time-wise, and by specific case. So what's going on with that horse? What are they going to require? Things like that. And if it's not something that we are equipped to handle, we're not going to take on that horse. Or if we can't do it financially, we're not going to take on that horse. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that, and share that really, you guys, this is seriously, it's just the beginning for us. Please understand, this is our first location. We are just starting out here. 117 horses is nothing. We have so many crazy dreams and amazing possibilities to come for these animals that is going to blow all of your minds. The catch is, I always say these things, and I have done this my whole life. I tell people, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and they're like, oh, well, that's absolutely crazy, and I don't think you will, but sure. And then, lo and behold, we do it. So I'm telling you this now. We're not there yet. We will get there. Stick with me on this journey, and you will see, I guarantee it. We have solid plans to extend our acreage every single year, year after year. And I guess this should have been in our current property segment, but I forgot, so we're going to throw it in here. I wanted to keep this a big surprise for you guys, but it's looking like that's not going to be possible, so I will leak a couple little details. We have an incredible opportunity this year to expand our acreage by at least another 150 acres. So that is underway. I cannot share details yet. Please understand that. I want to keep some of it a surprise for you guys, but just know it's going to be awesome. And that property is already fenced, so we won't have to worry about that. It will be immediately usable. So all good news there, which will bring our total over 300 acres. So that's great news. I was hoping to keep it a surprise, but that's okay. If I need to share a little bit of that, I will compromise and we'll share a little bit, because I know some people are like, whoa, you're taking in horses still. Yes, because we have this sustainable model that is working incredibly well as emergency funds set aside in case of some sort of disaster or issue. That makes this a completely reasonable and wise decision if you are looking at the sanctuary as a business, which you must. A lot of the problem we see with these sanctuaries out here is that they're in this, they may love the horses, and that is great. That's incredible. You need that to be able to pull off this work. But you need more than that. You have to be able to plan for not just your future, but every single horse in your care's future for life. And we're looking at 25, 30 years. So we really cannot take these things lightly. And I hope that you guys know, when we decide to take in a horse, even though we're able to take in 4 to 6 per month with the occasional larger group, we are very deeply considering everything that horse is going to need throughout their entire life. And it is not a decision that is taken lightly when we decide, yes, let's have another rescue mission and let's see if we can help these 2 or these 4 that are bonded, or these 3 that we're working on right now that were actually dumped by another sanctuary. And we found out what sanctuary that is, and we've been in contact trying to work out something where we can figure out what's truly going on there and whether or not this is going to happen again. We will be releasing who it is, please don't worry, but I wanted to be in contact with them first because my priority again is the horse's safety. If we out them and everyone goes nuts, they're definitely going to take the rest of the horses and dump them immediately and then just disappear. So that's going to put those horses in a bad situation, whereas I can take this opportunity to be a bridge between what's happening and hopefully prevent those horses from ending up dumped at all. So that's where we're at with that. Kind of a little side tangent there, but we know who it is. I will be releasing that, but I've got to get through this entire series of information and opinion on current issues, I guess you could call it. So that's what we're focusing on today. Hopefully tomorrow I can move on and we can focus on that issue because it really needs attention. So yeah, we 117 here right now. It's very, very manageable. We're going to talk about how we feed, how we administer vet care. We're going to talk about water. We're going to talk about hoof care. We're going to talk about all of that in the next segment, so please stay tuned. Let's talk feeding now, shall we? So a lot of people are like, how in the world do you take care of this many horses? Let me explain. So here are these bales. They are huge. These here are 1,100 to 1,200 pound bales, depending. These come from a local supplier. We love to buy local if at all possible, because we like to take care of our local people. He's an older guy. He bales it himself. He stacks it himself. He does everything himself, and he has a hard time moving this hay. So we are really doing him a favor by stopping in 1 to 2 times a week. And we can fit 12 of these beautiful big bales on our flatbed trailer. This is our materials pile, flatbed trailer right there. So as you can see, currently on that, there's one massive big square bale. Those particular ones are 1,900 pounds. So we typically use these big ones to put out in the pastures. You see there's horses eating there. There's horses eating there. There is 2 bales way over there that we see, and we kind of keep everything centralized to this area so that we can easily access all of the gates in order to get in and feed everyone. And when they're eating, they're in this area. So instead of them being totally spread out into the back of the pastures, every day they are, sorry, my hand keeps getting in the way because I'm looking. They are here centrally so we can count everyone, do a check, make sure everyone's doing good, make sure no one's got an injury that popped up or anything like that. So there's a note on that. Those 1,900 pound bales are also from a local supplier that we love to use. If our 2 local guys have hay in stock, we will 100% buy hay from them. Now, sometimes they run out. We buy a lot of hay. So we do have one big, massive supplier in Utah. He has this giant barn and it's filled with these big bales of alfalfa. And there is one just north of us near Grand Junction that is also a massive hay operation. And we buy from there and they will send us an entire semi-load, which fits of this size about 38 on it, and of that square size it fits about 24 to 26 depending on the trailer length. So we have those 4 hay suppliers and we have never had an issue not being able to find hay from one of them, and we really appreciate supporting our local guys, like I said, but we love our 2 big distributors. It's awesome to bring in a semi-load at once. It's a lot less work for us. We don't have to go get hay 2 to 3 times a week when we get a semi-load, but like I said, we do like supporting our local guys, so we end up usually going to get hay 2 or 3 times a week on our trailer with our own truck. So once we get the hay here, we use these smaller bales, and every single quarantine pen has a bale in it with a net over it, a slow feed net, so that they aren't just chowing down large amounts of hay, because oftentimes our horses we get coming into quarantine are they're very thin, so you have to be careful to feed them an entire bale without a net. With that being said, there are cases where you do need to give them a bale without a net because they are so thin, they need to get those calories in, and you need to monitor them closely and also not give them any more supplemental feed so that they aren't overloaded with too many nutrients, which I know sounds crazy, but it's actually a thing. The horse can get sick if they've been starved and they are skeletal and you give them too many calories and too many different nutrients. So that's something to watch out for, and a note to make. I hope that perhaps these videos will find themselves to someone who is considering starting a rescue or sanctuary, because these are all factors that, you know, there's not a handbook for this stuff. So unfortunately, there really should be, and I know several of the big players have said they're going to get around to it, but we've never seen anything like any sort of handbook. So here is my testimony. Here's how we run things. Here's what we do. Here's what works for us. You know, this is my advice to anyone trying to start out, and this is, I hope, a way to give you guys a lot more insight and let anyone wanting to get into this work understand what exactly they're getting themselves into. So back to feeding. So small bales go in the quarantine pens. The big 4x4 square bales, like I showed you, the one on the trailer, those are what we put out into the pastures to feed our larger herds, because they last a little bit longer. Those last about 3 to 4 days out in the fields. So as soon as they're gone, we throw more out there, so the horses 24/7 have hay to be munching on. It is detrimental for horses' digestive systems to be digesting hay all day long. So wow, sorry about that. My phone actually got full, so I had to go delete a couple of videos to make room to finish this series up. We do still have quite a bit to cover though, so if you're watching this all, I commend you. Please stick with me. There's a lot to be said. Where were we? Oh yes, digestive systems of horses. So digesting hay all day long keeps the acidity from rising up in their stomachs, and that acidity rising up is actually what causes ulcers in horses. So by feeding them 24/7, you're most closely mimicking their habits in the wild. Obviously, I would love it if we had grass everywhere here. However, this area is not good for grazing. Again, more details to come on that later. We've got some improvements that we'll be making. I can't share yet. I will. But anyway, so this is the closest thing we can get to allow them to eat 24/7 so that their digestive systems are in great health. And also they are made to be chewing all day, every day, which helps keep their teeth in check. So that is why we put hay out here. Also, if you feed only twice a day, it's very hard to make sure that your horses that are lower on the totem pole get enough food, because the bigger, bossier horses will run them off. So having the bales out there 24/7 allows those horses to eat just as much as the horses that belong higher up on the ranking within the herd. So let me see, is there anything else about feeding? That's pretty much it. We keep bales out there, and we keep bales in the quarantine pen. That's when one gets low, we go out and we replace it. So that's that. I suppose we'll get on to water. So here in this area, it's very common for there to be water shares, which I never knew of before I moved here. It's kind of weird. I'm from Texas. There's water everywhere. No one's fighting over it. It's not a big deal. So here there is irrigation and water shares. However, we are lucky enough to be close enough to the city of Mancos that we have city water, so we never have to worry about a well which here in this area can go dry. Another really bizarre thing I never heard of before in my life until moving here. And we also don't have to worry about paying for irrigation yearly, or worrying about if they cut the irrigation water off early or anything like that. So along with that, we did have plans to put in a pond, and there was a pond here before, but it turns out as we went to ask the city about the zoning for this pond, because you have to get their approval for pretty much anything that you do, they informed us that since we don't have the rights. So let me backtrack. This is very weird and confusing if you're not from this area or some western area that has water irrigated or piped to it. So technically every drop of water that comes from snowfall in the mountains and runs off to various areas is owned by someone. So they told us that since we do not own the water that flows in this creek through the middle of our property every spring, that we cannot build a pond there, and that the dam is not functioning for a reason, because the previous owner was not allowed to have the pond there, period. So while we did briefly mention doing that, we are actually unable to do that because of the laws on water rights here, which is really crazy. However, I understand the farmers around here have to get their water, so they have to, if you don't own it, you can't stop it up on your property. So that's that. We're not allowed to have a pond. Now, we could dig a small pond and fill it with water hoses of city water, but it's just, the whole point in having a pond would be so it's a natural feature for the horses to enjoy, right? But if we're having to fill it with water hoses, it's no longer a natural feature. So that's kind of where we're at on that. We've considered doing it still. It's just it's an interesting situation there with whether to spend time and resources doing that and then have to pay to fill it up, versus the one we had intended to build would have been naturally sustaining year-round due to the amount of water that flows right through the middle of our property. There's a big reservoir up from us, and when we get snow, the reservoir gets too full and threatens to flood the houses around it, so they let it out and it travels all the way down here to our property, and it drains right through the middle of us. And it's actually really cool in the spring. It's rushing water straight through here, and it goes through the bigger alpine pasture, so they love that. But again, we can't stop that up. So that is the pond issue. Unfortunately, didn't work out due to legal reasons. If it was possible, it would already be done, I guarantee you, because I love nothing more than to see these guys go swimming. It's so beautiful, and they do deserve that. Good news is, with our property expansion, there will be a pond. So again, I'm trying not to share so many details on that, but I'm very excited, and it's hard to keep it contained. But there is a small possibility, as with all things, that it doesn't work out. So I'm trying to not share all the details until it is completely 100% finalized. So and for those that will be worried and say, what if it doesn't work out, we have several backup properties all lined out, so one of them is going to work out, no doubt. There's no way that all of them are not going to work out. So there's that. It is a matter of time. I cannot give you an exact timeline on that. It varies, as these things do. There's a lot of different steps, a lot of things that have to be done in preparation, a lot of paperwork. So again, I'm not going to make an official announcement and share all of the details until it's official, and I really hope that you guys understand that, because I don't want to share something and then it not happen. So let me think. That was feed and water. I don't believe there's anything else. Oh, I didn't really get to water. We got sidetracked. So we have city water run down here. We have 2 different spigots, and we literally have like 1,000 feet of water hoses to run down and reach our different quarantine pins. Here, I will show you guys those. Let me walk over here and let me flip this camera. So as you see, our main pastures are over here with all the easy access entrance points here in one general location. Sorry, my hand keeps getting in the way. Oh my gosh. And then across the road, so here's the road. Across the road, we have all of our quarantine pens. We've got 5 here. And back there, past the junk pile, we've got to haul this off very soon. I'm tired of looking at it. Is where we're setting up for our alpines currently. So they'll be going back there, and you see a water hose run across here. We've got like 3 different hoses over there going to all these different pins. So we turn on the water over there, and it pipes out to all of these troughs over here. Okay, so that's water and feed. Now let's get on to some of the care aspects here in our next segment. Stay tuned. Before we move into care, I wanted to discuss quarantine because it's extremely important, especially if you're bringing in horses from kill pens or auctions or, you know, anywhere where you don't really know the history. They've got to be quarantined. Here we do quarantine horses that come in for a minimum of 2 months, and that is because some of these sicknesses have a longer incubation period, so it can take longer for them to show. So you might leave them in quarantine for a month and you think, oh, they're not sick, but then you put them out and a week later, oh God, now everyone's sick. So we do 2 entire months, which we don't like having to do, but it is a necessary thing to keep them in these smaller pens for this amount of time so that we can ensure that everyone is not sick with anything, period, at all. Let me flip this camera, hold on. So these are our boys that just came in a couple days ago, and this is a prime example of another reason we quarantine. You see they are very skeletal here. They're very skeletal. If we just turned these horses out, besides the risk of getting everyone else sick if these guys are carrying something or are sick themselves and not showing symptoms yet, we run the risk of them not gaining the proper weight. So we quarantine and we get them to a healthy weight, even if that means they have to stay in quarantine longer than the 2 months. They have to stay here until they are completely healthy and ready to join our herd. It's imperative. If you see a rescue or sanctuary that is not quarantining their horses, that is a huge red flag. Huge red flag. Quarantine is vital, you guys. It's not even funny how quickly some of these sicknesses can spread, and they are rampantly awful in these kill pens and these auctions, because these horses are just coming in from all over the place and mingling. And if you think about how many horses are passing through one kill pen or auction in a very short amount of time, you can really consider how many sicknesses and diseases could really be in those places. And a lot of this stuff can live in the dirt. So that is a big reason for quarantining. And that is my spiel on quarantining. So let's get over here and we're going to discuss care. Okay, we have very unique methods of gentling these horses. It's incredibly horse-led. We know very in-depth their facial cues and body language, as they are constantly communicating with us 24/7. I could talk about this for a year. If you want to know more about that, please go check out the page called Kind Horse Training here on Instagram, or I guess here on Facebook. They'll be posted on both. So check that out if you want to know more. But with that said, a lot of our horses out here are very gentle, especially for wild horses. And though they're in sanctuary, they do not mind us walking up to them. We can touch them all over. We can pick up their feet. So our focus is to have every horse here like that. Now, there are those horses that have just been through too much. They are absolutely traumatized. They can't handle that kind of interaction with a person due to the past. Now, maybe eventually they will, but they can't right now. So we do have those cases, and we do have those that are really just not interested in people, which is also okay. We're all about giving the horse a choice here. And our top priority is keeping the horses stress-free. So in all of our management techniques, that is our ideal goal. With that being said, we have several different methods when vet care is needed. So we do not yet have a chute. That is something I have been working on. We were actually planning on fundraising for one of those incredible $45,000 padded hydraulic chutes like Skydog and I forget, maybe it's Return to Freedom has. However, the problem with those is they are 14 months out on production. So from the time you pay for it, you have over a year until it actually gets to you. So we've been working on trying to find an alternative. With that being said, that does not mean our horses do not get vet care. We have several different ways that we go about it depending on the horse and depending on the specific situation. So first, I will flip this around and we're going to look at this here. Okay, so here's our BLM pasture here. If we look over here, we've got this gate that goes into this pen. There is a panel on the ground because this is not used. There's several buckets. This is used for nothing other than when we need to pull in any horse for any reason. We can get everyone over here with a little bit of feed, which they love. And I was going to bring out here, but I totally forgot. I'll have to go get some later. I'm going to have to take a break here and recharge my phone. I'm on like 10% before I do the rest of these videos. So we pull them into this pen, and then we are able to separate them out, and from there we can load the sick horse and take them to the vet's physical location. It's a great option. Second, we do have 2 different vets that we work with that have the capability to dart these horses in the field. So that is an incredible option as well. And just remember that these methods depend on the specific problem and what's going on as to how it's going to be approached. So darting in the field is great. They have this gun thing. It's like a shotgun, and they can stand literally from a couple hundred yards out, shoot the horse. A couple minutes later, the horse goes down. They're asleep. You can do whatever you need, and then they wake up a little bit later. So very, very good process there. Again, all of this depends on the specific situation. Now, in a really, really urgent situation, we have made a chute out of panels before. And like I said, we're very careful to make sure that we do not stress these horses. And because we really do take a lot of time and effort, and we take things so slow, and we read the horse's stress indicators and body language throughout the entire process so that we can make sure that the horse does not end up getting hurt and they don't feel unsafe. So we go very slow, we get them used to things, and we get what we need to get done. So those are, let me see, am I forgetting anything here? Please forgive me for continually pausing to think, but I do not want to forget anything because I'm really trying to be super in-depth about how everything is done around here. Let me think. Darting, emergency chute, load and take to the vet. We're working on getting a chute. It is actually extremely difficult to find a chute that is not that specific $45,000 chute that is definitely top of the line, and we will get one within the next 1.5 or 2 years because of that production time. Again, it takes so long for them to actually be made and sent to you. But it's very hard to find an alternative that is safe and effective and fits horses. You can find cattle chutes all day long that have all the different doors and things that open and you can access the horse, but there's no padding. They are just really rough systems. So this is an ongoing thing. I've actually talked to a couple people about getting something custom made so that we can have this capability. And then we will no longer have to dart or get a horse loaded and take them to the vet. We can do every single thing right there in that chute. So please know that is something we are working on. It is not at the back of our minds. That is at the forefront for me. It's just actually harder than you would ever think. So there's not just a dealer you can walk to and get these specific horse chutes. Okay, so that's where we're at on that. And again, as I said, most of these horses you can walk right up to and you can touch them all over. So the vet can come out and do whatever needs to be done, usually without a big ruckus and without causing any stress to the animal. She can just come out, we'll bring some feed, and they stay right there, and you can do whatever you need. So that is our process on vet care. Next, we're going to talk about hooves. Alrighty guys, this is the hoof episode. First off, I just want to start, let's just take a look here. Now if we look at the shape of everyone's hooves, just take a look there. Hi little babe. Hi Charisma. Oh my god, she's gonna approach for the first time. Hey baby. Let me get smaller, maybe she'll come up. Oh, okay, total side note, but I bent down in hopes she would come up further. If you make yourself smaller, they usually feel more comfortable to approach. But I did it a little fast, so she was like, oh my god, are you bending down to pounce on me? There she is with Mama. Mama Yin. Alright, I got totally sidetracked. Okay, back to hooves. So, just looking, everyone, hi Mag, how are you? Hi Bubba. I'm not going to be able to shake this dude now, he's always with me. So as I was saying, a lot of these dudes are very gentle. They're not all dudes, I apologize to you that are ladies. And we can go up, we can touch all over them, we can pick up their hooves, and we can do whatever we need to do. So, usually not a concern. And the secondary factor here, hi Mocha, hey Nova, is, let me get up here and I'll show you. We have these awesome hills, and I'll show you why I love them so much. Let me get up there. Almost. All right. Every pasture has these hills, and if you notice, they're very rocky. So while the horses are traveling about through the trees, their hooves are actually getting filed down in the most natural way possible, and this is actually how it works in the wild. So a lot of our hooves are kept in very good shape naturally, which is incredible. We love that about this property. And occasionally we do have a horse that gets long and they're not maintaining. Some hooves grow longer and different than others. In that case, again, if we can't walk up to them and pick up their feet, we will dart them. And one of our vets is also a farrier, so he comes out, he can dart, trim the hooves, do whatever else needs to be done, and that's that. So they get taken care of. Now, I can't really think of anything else on hoof care. We do work with them with the different farrier tools too, so they're used to that. And the ones that aren't, comfortable with us walking up and picking up their feet, that's something we're always working on. So when we are able to, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but this stuff is so important. If you are around or you have wild horses, you need to have an in-depth understanding of stress indicators, facial cues, and body language, because these horses are telling us things 24/7, and they can't lie. If we can read that, we know exactly what they're thinking, exactly how they're feeling, and most of the times we know exactly what they're going to do before they do it because they're telling us. So with that being said, we spend a lot of time just hanging out with these guys and trying to get them used to us. It seems so underrated, and a lot of these Mustang trainers, I will put that in quotations because I have a big vendetta against some of the methods used, will say that doesn't do anything. However, the longer you spend with these guys and they realize you're not a threat, then you can really do anything with them. The barrier that people have in training these horses is actually that these horses are feeling threatened by everything the human is doing, and the human doesn't care enough to read the horse to see that the horse is feeling threatened and respond accordingly. Therefore, the horse runs from them. The horse doesn't want to be caught. You can't touch the horse. Or we get these situations with Mustangs where you can touch them, but they are wide-eyed and shaking, and they're frozen. So little tangent here, but it's good information. When these horses are scared, and they're so scared, and they've tried to fight, and they've tried to run off, and nothing's working, hey baby, they will freeze. Their nervous system literally shuts down their body's ability to move, and they're there, but they are unable to move, and it's just a state of extreme terror. So I urge you to look out. If you see a Mustang training video, or a video of someone with their Mustang and they're wide-eyed, they're not blinking, and they look very terrified, they are. You're not making that up. And even people who don't know anything about horses are usually better at spotting these things than the people who claim to be experts in the field of Mustang training. It's quite an interesting thing, and we inherently know when these horses are having an issue or scared. We just like to ignore it. So that is my spiel on care. I hope that's helpful. Primrose says hello, sweet baby. She was a surprise baby. We didn't even know her mama was pregnant. She was so skinny when she came in. Yeah, and behind me we have Petunia. Hey, Petunia. Petunia is one who's a little more skeptical. That's okay, we'll get there. And Blue Duck's back again. All right, on to the next section. I'm not sure what it's gonna be yet. I've gotta go in, charge my phone, and I'll be back out here this evening with more information. I wanted to throw on a quick side note. I know I said we're done, but in regards to care, like I'm recording my face here because I really hope that you guys can see my sincerity and my intention here. I don't care what the situation is or what I have to go through. I will not let a horse go without the care that they need. It is not just to do that. It's not acceptable. It's not okay, period. So whatever needs to be done. I mean, for example, when Rain poked her eye out, we could not find any vet that would touch that with a 10-foot pole, with her being wild. Even the ones that we can take wild horses to around here, they said, no, I'm not doing an eye surgery like that. Mag, he is in this biting stage. So we were literally out here in the driving snow and mud, getting her into that pen I showed you guys and getting her loaded, and we drove all the way out to For the Love of Aria, who had a vet that agreed to do the surgery in a chute that we could use there. Shout out to Gina. We appreciate you so much for that, and it is absolutely incredible when rescues can work together. I love to see it. The point being, there's nothing we will not do for these horses, and I really mean that deeply and sincerely. Like, these are family members. They're not just animals that are here. They are living, sentient beings, and they deserve all of the care and love in the world that they deserve, and I will not let one go without on my watch. You have my absolute word on that fact.